learners, I am Dr. Manuradha Chaudhary, Assistant Professor at the Center of Russian Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University. I welcome you all to this course, Basics of Russian Communication Skills. The objective of this module is to make you understand the basics of Russian language. Today, in this module, first we will read a text, "Vykhadnoy dzen" in Russian. Then I will translate the whole text in English. Further, text will be analyzed from the grammatical point of view, and at the end, on the basis of text, some questions will be discussed. And here we will also focus on new verbs, their conjugations and usage in the text. Please read the following text. Vykhadnoy dzen. Выходные дни я и мои родители иногда гуляем в городе. Мы ходим в музей или кино, ужинаем в ресторане Тадж-Махал, который очень популярен в нашем районе, и поздно возвращаемся домой. Вчера был выходной день, но мы были дома. Мы пригласили своих русских друзей Татьяну и Алексея на обед. Тетя Таня, дядя Алеша и мой отец вместе учились в Москве 20 лет назад. Они жили в общежитии на одном и том же этаже и обычно вечером вместе занимались. Они даже вместе готовили разные индийские и русские блюда. Отец часто рассказывает, как они проводили время, когда учились в Москве. Уже в России тетя Таня и дядя Алеша много читали и слышали об Индии и давно мечтали о поездке в Индию. Наконец, они решили приехать сюда на месяц. Они уже ездили в Агру, Кералу, Джайпур, Варанаси и Гоа. Они очень полюбили эти города и штаты. Теперь они в Дели. Вчера днем они были у нас в гостях. Тетя Таня, дядя Алеша и мой отец вспоминали те дни, когда они учились вместе. Хотя наши гости впервые в Индии, они уже много знают о нашей стране. Они долго рассказывали о том, какие достопримечательности они смотрели. После обеда мы ходили в кино. Тетя Таня и дядя Алеша хотели посмотреть индийский фильм. Потом мы ездили на улицу Джанпад, где они купили традиционные индийские сувениры. Поздно ночью мы проводили их в аэропорт. Dear learners, now I am going to translate the whole text. During weekends, I and my parents sometimes walk in the city. We go to the museum or to the cinema. We dine at the restaurant Taj-Mahal, which is very popular in our area, and we come back home late. Yesterday was a holiday, but we were at home. We invited our Russian friends Tatyana and Alexei for lunch. 20 years ago, Aunt Tanya, Uncle Alyosha and my father studied together in Moscow. They lived in a hostel at the same floor, and usually in the evening they studied together. Even they prepared various Indian and Russian dishes together. Father often tells how they spent their time when they were in Moscow. Aunt Tanya and Uncle Alyosha have read a lot and heard about India already in Russia, and for a long time they were dreaming about a trip to India. Finally, they decided to come here for a month. They have already traveled to Agra, Kerala, Jaipur, Varanasi and Goa. They loved these cities and states. Now they are in Delhi. Yesterday afternoon, they were our guests. Aunt Tanya, Uncle Alyosha, and my father recalled those days when they studied together. Although our guests are in India for the first time, but they already know about our country. For long, they were telling us about the sights which they have seen. After lunch, we went to the cinema. Aunt Tanya and Uncle Alyosha wanted to watch an Indian film. Then we went to Janpat Street, where they bought traditional Indian souvenirs. Late night, we accompanied them to the airport. Dear learner, in this text, you must have seen some new words. First, I will explain you their meanings and usage, and in the case of new verbs, so before analyzing or understanding the text, I shall explain their conjugation in past and present. First of all, we will see new words and their meanings. Let me tell you one very important point here, that one word can have one or more than one meaning. So we have to choose equivalent carefully for translation as per the context. Vykhadnoy Jain. Vykhadnoy Jain means weekend, or you can say holiday. Vykhadnoy, if we use this word separately, it means exit. So we have to use this word in combination. We always use this word in combination, and it means holiday or weekend. And plural is Vykhadniye Dni. Vykhadniye Dni, weekends. Now let's move to the next word, Dasta Primicha Chelnast. This word is of feminine gender and it means sides. Plural of this word is Dasta Primicha Chelnasti. Another word is Vperviye, which means for the first time, or you can say first. Vperviye is an adverb. In sentences of Russian language, adverbs do not change like verbs, adjectives, pronoun and noun changes. Similarly, we have two more adverbs in this text, Nakanyets, which means at last or finally. Another adverb is Uje, that means already or by this time, or you can say by now. Please remember that verbs in present form are conjugated or changes for person and number. However, in the past tense, verbs do not change for person, they change for number and gender. So here in this text, we have verbs of motion, reflexive verbs, and we will also see some example of perfective verbs. Now we have verbs ichi and khajich, which means to go by foot. Ichi denotes unidirectional movement and khajich denotes multidirectional movement. And we also have yekhach and yezjich, which means to go by transport. Yekhach is unidirectional verb of motion, whereas yezjich is multidirectional. I will not conjugate these verbs in this module, as you have already done these verbs of motion in the previous module, which was dedicated to verbs of motion only. And now I have another verb, that is slishach. Slishach answer to the question shto and a kom or a chom, which means to hear. For example, on ni slishat, he does not hear. Ya slishal ab etam, I heard about it. However, verb slushach, which also sounds similar, and that means to listen, and it takes question kavo and shto. For example, on slushayat radio, ili on slushayat pripada vatsalya, and the translation is he listens radio or he listens to his teacher. And the conjugation of the verb is ya slishu, I hear, ti slishish, you hear, on ana slishit, he hears, on slishit, he hears, ana slishit, she hears, me slishim, we hear, we slishitse, you hear, ani slishat, they hear. And in the past, it conjugates like ya, ti, on will take same endings. Ya slishal means I heard, you heard, or he heard. And Ya, ti, ana will take again the same endings. Ti, slishala, ya, slishala, ana, slishala means I heard, you heard, and she heard. It is in feminine gender. And for third person, me slishali, we slishali, ani slishali. Me slishali, we heard. We slishali, you heard. Ani slishali, they heard. Next verb is zaftrakach, and perfective of this verb is pazavtrakach, and it conjugates like this. Ya zaftrakayu means I am having breakfast. Ti zaftrakayesh, you are having breakfast. On zaftrakayet, he is having breakfast. Ana zaftrakayet, she is having breakfast. Me zaftrakayem, we are having breakfast. We zaftrakayche, you are having breakfast. Ani zaftrakayut, they are having breakfast. And in the past, zaftrakal, zaftrakala, zaftrakali. Zaftrakal, ya zaftrakal, ili ya zaftrakala, depending on the gender, we can conjugate it and we can use it. And me, we, ani, zaftrakali means we had breakfast or they had breakfast, depending on me, we, ani. We can derive their meaning. Abedach. Next verb is abedach. Abedach is to have lunch, and it conjugates like ya abedayu, I am having lunch. Ti abedayesh, you are having lunch. On ana abedayet, he or she is having lunch. Me abedayem, we are having lunch. We abedaiche, you are having lunch. Ani abedayut, they are having lunch. And in past, we conjugate verb abedesh. Ya ti on abedal for masculine gender. Ya ti ana abedala for feminine gender. Me, we, ani in plural abedali means ya abedal, I had lunch. Ya abedala for feminine gender means I had lunch, and me abedali, we had lunch. Similarly, we can conjugate with other pronouns. Next verb is ujinaj, which means to have dinner, and conjugation is ya ujinayu, that means I am having dinner. Ti ujinayesh, you are having dinner. On ana ujinayet, he or she is having dinner. Me ujinayem, we are having dinner. We ujinaytse, you are having dinner. Ani ujinayut, they are having dinner. Ya ti in the past, ya ti on ujinal for masculine, I had dinner, you had dinner, and he had dinner. And ya ti ana ujinala, that means I had dinner for feminine gender, you had dinner for feminine gender, ana, she had dinner. And in plural, me, we, ani, ujinali means we had dinner, you had dinner, they had dinner. Now next verb is vasvrashatsya, and it answers to the question kuda, the moi, suppose. This is a reflexive verb, which means verbs with ending sya, and that verb is intransitive. Intransitive verbs are those verbs which do not require direct object. So vasvrashatsya is a reflexive verb or intransitive verb, and the conjugation is ya vasvrashayus, that means I return. Ti vasvrashayasya, you return. On vasvrashayasya, he returns. Ana vasvrashayasya, she returns. Me vasvrashayamsya, we return. We vasvrashayches, you return. Ani vasvrashayutsya, they return. And in past, it conjugates like vasvrashalsya, vasvrashalas, vasvrashales, depending on the number or gender. Dear learners, please pay attention that Russian language has two aspects of verbs, imperfective and perfective. So I am not going to discuss in detail as you have already done in previous module. So I am just going to give you conjugation of these verbs. So we have another verb, priglashaj, that is an imperfective verb which means to invite, and the perfective aspect or perfective verb or perfective pair of this verb is priglasić, which also means to invite, and it answers to the question kavo. Priglasić kavo. Priglasić kavo na što. We generally use like this. Mi priglasili Alexeya na obed. So we invited Alexei at dinner or lunch, and the conjugation is like this. Ya priglashu, I invite. Ti priglasiš, you invite. On priglasit, he invites. Ana priglasit, she invites. Mi priglasim, we invite. Vi priglasice, you invite. Ani priglasit, they invite. And in past it conjugates priglasil, priglasila, priglasili, depending on the number and gender. Next verb is pravajij. Meaning of verb pravajij is contextual. You should remember this. If pravajij is imperfective and its pair is pravisci, then it means to spend or to carry out or to lead, to conduct, or sometimes to translate. So please remember different meanings of this verb. But if pravajij is in perfective form, then its spectual pair is pravajaj, which means to accompany or to see of someone. Pravajij, which means to spend time, so it will be conjugated like that. Ya pravaju, I spent. Ti pravojesh, you spent. On pravojit, he spends. Ana pravojit, she spends. Mi pravojim, we spend. Vi pravojice, you spend. Ani pravojit, they spend. And in past, pravajil, pravajila, pravajili, depending on the number and gender. Pravajil, ya pravajil, I spend. Ya pravajila for feminine gender, I spend again. And mi pravajili, we spend, or ani pravajili, they spent. Pravajij verb, which means to accompany, and the aspectual pair is pravajaj, and that pravajaj conjugates like ya pravajayu, I accompany. Ti pravajayesh, you accompany. On ana pravajayet, he or she accompanies. Mi pravajayem, we accompany. Vi pravajayche, you accompany. Ani pravajayut, they accompany. And in past it conjugates pravajal, pravajala, pravajali. Next verb is raskazivaj, and which answers to a comb, ili, a chom, and that means to tell or to narrate. And it conjugates like ya raskazivayu, I tell. Ti raskazivayesh, you tell. On ana raskazivayet, he tells or she tells. Mi raskazivayem, we tell. Vi raskazivayche, you tell. Ani raskazivayut, they tell. And in past it conjugates like raskazival, raskazivala, raskazivali, depending on the number and gender. While reading the text, you must have seen the word populyarin, and this is a short form of adjective populyarni. It is a qualitative adjective. Please remember that qualitative adjectives have a long and short forms. In a sentence, the long form is used as an attribute and the short form as predicate. Both the short and long forms of adjective change for gender and number. On populyarin, he is popular. Ana populyarna, she is popular. Ani populyarni, they are popular. And similarly, we have other adjectives also like swabodni, ili, zanyati, they also have short form. Swabodni has swabodin, swabodna, swabodni. Similarly, other adjectives also have short forms. And these adjectives can be used in the past or future tense with help of verb bij. For example, ana bodit, populyarna. If we will conjugate the verb beach in future, then it can be combined with populyaren according to the gender. Ana bujit populyarna. That means she will be popular. And for masculine gender, on in the past form, if we want to use, on bil populyaren. He was popular. There is another word, katori, which is used in the text, and word katori is used as conjunction to join two simple sentences to make a complex sentence, and it corresponds to the English word which, who and that. Its number and gender depends on the noun which it qualifies. Here I will not discuss in detail as you have already done this in previous modules. So I'll just give you some examples of katori. Ya chitayu chicks, katori vipisali. Here we are using word katori in masculine because katori is replacing here chicks, which is a masculine gender noun. So we are using katori also in masculine form. Ya chitayu chicks, katori vipisali. I am reading text which you wrote. Next example is Ya mishtаю о девушке, которая живет рядом. I am dreaming about a girl who lives nearby. Rядом means nearby. Here word katori is replacing the noun девушка. Девушка is feminine gender noun, and katori is also changing according to feminine gender noun девушка. It is also taking the same form. So here it is taking the form of feminine gender. So я мечтаю о девушке, которая живет рядом. I am dreaming about a girl who lives nearby. Next example, я получила письмо, которое вы прислали. Письмо is neuter gender noun. In this sentence, katori is replacing the word pismo, which is of neuter gender. So katori is also taking the neuter gender form. Я получила письмо, которое вы прислали. I received a letter which you sent. And in plural also we use katori. Я читала книги, которые вы купили вчера. I read books which you bought yesterday. Knigi, plural form. And katori here replacing word knigi. Katori is also taking plural form. So, ya chitala knigi, katori vi kupili včera. I read books which you bought yesterday. And similarly, we have adverbs also in this text. For adverbs of time, the koshal will be kagda. And you must have seen words utram, dnyom, nochu, pozna. Utram means in the morning, dnyom in the afternoon, nochu in the night, pozna late. Suppose you have example, когда вы гуляете? Я гуляю утром. I walk in the morning. So, next example is я люблю гулять в университетском городе. So, I love to walk in university. Когда? Утром или вечером? In the morning or in the evening. So, когда answers to the questions utram or dnyom. Dear learners, now once again we will read the text and will analyze it from the point of view of grammar. While reading the text this time, please pay attention to the verbs and their conjugation in past and also to their usage in the text. Выходные дни я и мои родители иногда гуляем в городе. Мы ходим в музей или кино, ужинаем в ресторане Taj Mahal, который очень популярен в нашем районе, и поздно возвращаемся домой. Выходные дни together is used here for expressing during. Выходные дни we are using in plural. So during weekends, I and my parents, я и мои родители иногда, sometimes гуляем в городе, sometimes walks in city. Mi chodzim w muzej ili kino. Chodzić kuda? W muzej. Here we are using muzej in accusative case. Mi chodzim w muzej ili kino. We go to the museum or to cinema. Ужинаем в ресторане Taj Mahal. We dine at the restaurant Taj Mahal, который очень популярен в нашем районе. Here, который is replacing the noun restaurant. Restaurant is of masculine gender word. So, который is also taking masculine form here. Который очень популярен в нашем районе. Популярен I have already explained. So, which is very popular in our area. И поздно возвращаемся домой. And we come back home late. Возвращаемся. Мы возвращаемся. So here, возвращаться is conjugating with me. Мы возвращаемся домой. We come back home late. Вчера был выходной день, но мы были дома. Yesterday was a holiday, or you can say yesterday was a weekend, but we were at home. Мы пригласили своих русских друзей. We invited, пригласили кого? Своих русских друзей. We are using here accusative case. Пригласить кого? And these русских друзей we are using for plural forms. These are plural form of accusative. Мы пригласили своих русских друзей Татьяну и Алексея на обед. We invited our Russian friends Tatiana and Alexei for lunch. Вчера был выходной день, но мы были дома. Yesterday was a holiday, but we were at home. Мы пригласили своих русских друзей Татьяну и Алексея на обед. We invited our своих русских друзей, our Russian friends. Here we are using accusative form because of пригласить. Татьяну и Alexei. We invited our Russian friends Tatiana and Alexei for lunch. Тетя Таня, дядя Алёша и мой отец вместе учились в Москве 20 лет назад. Here we are using short forms, or you can say nicknames of Russian names. For Tatiana, we are using Tanya, and for Alexei, we are using Alyosha. These are nicknames. And generally, Russians have nicknames. So, in this text also, we can see that. Tетя Tanya, dядя Alyosha. Dядя means uncle. You can see dядя has feminine gender ending, but it is exception, it is masculine gender. Tanya, дядя Alyosha и мой отец вместе учились в Москве 20 лет назад. Aunt Tanya, Uncle Alyosha and my father studied together in Moscow 20 years ago. Они жили в общежитии на одном и том же этаже и обычно вечером вместе занимались. They lived in a hostel at the same floor and usually in the evening they study together. Они даже вместе готовили разные индийские и русские блюда. And they prepared various Indian and Russian dishes together. Отец часто рассказывает, как они проводили время, когда учились в Москве. And father often tells how they spent their time when they were in Moscow. Уже в России тетя Таня и дядя Алёша много читали и слышали об Индии и давно мечтали о поездке в Индию. Теперь они в деле. Aunt Tanya and Uncle Alyosha have read a lot and heard about India already in Russia. Уже already in Russia. And for a long time they were dreaming about a trip to India. Please pay attention to the word теперь. Теперь means now. But теперь, сейчас means also now. But теперь means when we compare two times, then we use теперь. Something happened earlier and something else is happening now, then we use теперь. Наконец, они решили приехать сюда на месяц. Finally, they decided to come here for a month. Они уже ездили в Агру, Kerala, Jaipur, Varanasi и Goa. They have already traveled to Agra, Kerala, Jaipur, Varanasi and Goa. Они очень полюбили эти города и штаты. They loved these cities and states. Now they are in Delhi. Вчера днем они были у нас в гостях. Yesterday, вчера днем. Yesterday afternoon. Они были у нас. They were our guest. This is in construction. У нас в гостях. They were our guest. You have to remember by heart. Тетя Таня, дядя Алеша и мой отец вспоминали те дни, когда они учились вместе. Aunt Tanya, Uncle Alyosha and my father recalled those days when they studied together. Хотя наши гости впервые в Индии, они уже много знают о нашей стране. Although our guests are in India for the first time, but they already know about our country. Они долго рассказывали о том, какие достопримечательности они смотрели. For long they were telling us about the sights which they have seen. После обеда мы ходили в кино. Тетя Таня и дядя Алеша хотели посмотреть индийский фильм. After lunch, we went to the cinema. Aunt Tanya and Uncle Alyosha want to watch an Indian film. Потом мы ездили на улицу Janpad. Then we went to the street Janpad, где они купили традиционные индийские сувениры, where they bought traditional Indian souvenirs. Поздно ночью мы проводили их в аэропорт. Late night, we accompanied them to the airport. So, we have already analyzed the text. Now, based on the text, we will discuss some questions just to check whether the text is clear to you or not. The first question is, как проводит время выходные дни рассказчик и его семья? How narrator and his family spend time during weekends? The answer is, они ходят в музей или кино, они ужинают в ресторане Taj Mahal, который очень популярен в их районе. They go to museums and cinema. They dine at restaurant Taj Mahal, which is very popular in their area. Next question is, кого они пригласили на обед? Whom they invited for lunch? Они пригласили своих русских друзей Татьяну и Алексея на обед. They invited their Russian friends Tatiana and Alexei for lunch. Next question. О чем часто рассказывал отец? About what father frequently tells? Отец часто рассказывал о Москве, как они проводили время, когда учились там. Father frequently narrated about Moscow, how they spent time when they studied there. Next question is, что хотели делать гости после обеда? What guest wanted to do after lunch? Гости после обеда, после, after. Lunch, it takes, после takes genitive. После обеда хотели посмотреть индийский фильм. Guest wanted to see Indian film after lunch. Что гости делали в Индии? What guests did in India? Гости ездили в Агру, Kerala, Jaipur, Varanasi и Goa. Guests traveled to Agra, Kerala, Jaipur, Varanasi and Goa. So today in this module we have covered the vocabulary related to the text Vykhadnoy Jain. We have also covered different aspects of Russian language like katori, short form of adjectives, verbal aspects, conjugation of verbs in the past tense, etc. I hope concepts covered in this module are clear to you. Dear learners, by this way you can make your own longer sentences by answering various questions of the verbs. The purpose here is not only of translation or getting acquainted with the vocabulary of the text, but by analyzing the text, the purpose is that you should be able to make your own sentences based on these syntactical construction and use them in your conversation. So kindly revise the text and practice by making your sentences at home. Thank you.